Hello, everybody. If you're thinking about a career as a personal trainer, but you have some questions about how to do that, then we're glad you're here. Hopefully, we can answer some of those questions today. My name is Dan Duran, and in today's webinar, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey to becoming a personal trainer, how it became a great career for me, and how it ultimately led to me actually becoming the executive vice president here at PTA Global. I'm also going to introduce you to my good friend Raphael, who has had a very successful career as a personal trainer. Our hope is that our different perspectives and pathways into personal training will give you the information you need to make a decision on whether personal training is the right career for you. In case it's your first webinar, like it is for me, this is my first webinar, a few housekeeping items I want to cover real quick. You're all muted by default, so you're not able to talk into the webinar. So if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box, and our moderator will make sure we get them as we're concluding the webinar. We want your feedback, so don't be shy. This is about you, and it's about how we can help you. We anticipate the webinar will run maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, including the Q&A, but we won't stop short if you have questions, as we want to make sure to answer everything at the end for you. Now, here's the important part. Make sure you stay until the end of the webinar. We're going to give you a great tool that we put together that outlines some of the things we feel you need to consider before becoming a personal trainer. And we've aptly named it the 5 things to consider before becoming a personal trainer. Now, before I tell some of my story, I want to introduce our guest, Raphael Konforti, or RAF for short. RAF has been a part of our PTA Global community since our inception back in 2009. So coming from the perspective of an old guy like me, RAF went from 0 to 100 in a very short time, including now managing the education for over 100 personal trainers. Actually, it's 1,000 personal trainers, and being a published author in over 25 magazines and websites, including Iron Man Magazine, and I'm sure we've all seen that one, and Pop Sugar. Raf and I had very different entry points into the fitness industry, and we're hoping you can relate to one of them. Raf, I know you're there. We're very happy to have you as part of our community here at PTA Global. Why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what it is you're doing now.
Thanks for the introduction, Dan, and hello to everyone who joined us. I'm Raphael, or like Dan said, you can just call me Raf for short. I'm currently the National Head of Fitness Education for UFIT, where essentially my role is to create the pathway for our personal trainers to be successful, to guide our clients to amazing results, and build our personal trainers' careers. I've always had a passion for education, whether that was with clients, gym members, or now primarily personal trainers. And I've been really fortunate to have the opportunity, Dan, like you said earlier, to do that through live workshops, online education, and through writing for different publications. And to be honest, though, Dan, I still really do see myself as that trainer trying to break into the industry and make a living back in 2009.
Great, Raf. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the introduction. How about we just kick things off right now by starting a little bit with your journey into becoming a personal trainer. How did you make the decision that you wanted to be a personal trainer when you clearly had a lot of options?
Mm-hmm. So I started getting actually paid to train people in 2009, but my journey to becoming a personal trainer really started 10 years before that when I was in elementary school. My parents were 1960s hippies. They were very alternative. They were eating superfoods like bee pollen and algae years before anyone had even heard of a place like Whole Foods. So I was probably destined to be a pretty healthy person, but like tons of people have experienced, my parents got divorced and my world and life just kind of completely flipped upside down. So without having, much guidance or awareness, I started eating all sorts of junk food, like the off-brand Fruit Loops for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Domino's 555 deal. It's been around for a long time, but used to be my Friday night, and I could get pretty close to finishing all that on my own. So needless to say, I was definitely in the husky category of shorts, and even got the nickname the Pillsbury Doughboy for a long time. But, over time, I started to be more active again, started playing a little bit of pickup sports. Wasn't the dead last pick, but I was pretty good friends with the person who was last. And for whatever reason, my friend told me I should join the high school lacrosse team, and I took a chance and did it. And that really was for me the turning point in my life. I had an amazing coach, this guy, Coach Busselman. He was the kind of guy who lettered in 8 varsity sports, but probably never actually started in any of those sports. But he really genuinely cared about us and got us in the weight room where I dabbled, doing a few curls here and there before the homecoming dance and that sort of thing. And, I really took it seriously because I wanted to play. And he set me aside for just 10 seconds. This one time, I think I was a sophomore. And he told me, if you keep up this physical regimen and keep training like this, there's no reason you can't be a starter next year. And from there, I was just off to the races. I picked up every single magazine I could find. I had Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. That's over 700 pages. And I had a notebook of notes on that giant book. I used every intensity technique, did every workout I could find, and just never missed an opportunity to work out since that conversation. And that's where I really was able to transform my body, build self-confidence. And it was at that time that I set off to go to University of Florida. And I majored in business thinking, well, business, you can do anything with business. And, I hadn't come from much money, or to be truthful, any money at all. So I needed a job to work my way through school. And that's where the idea was born that I wanted to become a trainer. I needed a job with flexible hours, and I knew personal training paid well. So I joined a program at UF to become a personal trainer, where I went through the PTAGlobal CPT, and that really accelerated my career and helped me shorten my learning curve in personal training. Having gone from being overweight, husky, Pillsbury Doughboy to doing men's physique contests, strongman competitions, I knew there was more to personal training than really just exercise. I found exercise to be something really fair, where you get out what you put in. Life doesn't always stack you up in a fair position, but it gives you the opportunity to put work in and get the results out from the work that you do. So learning that in PTAG really helped me set myself apart, because I kind of knew the exercise science a bit, but I really learned how to make that simple so people could understand it. And most importantly, how to help people with behavior change and not just count reps and correct form. So, that propelled me from just loving exercise and being lost with what career to choose from, to making a successful career as a trainer and in the fitness industry. So, Dan, I hope that didn't bore you, and that answers your question pretty well.
Oh, that's perfect, Raph. And one of the things we have in common and helped lead us to careers in personal training is the struggle we both had with weight at a young age. To this day, words like stout and husky, I hate those words. They bring up memories of me wearing a vest year-round to hide my man boobs and my belly. I was just actually recently going through some old photographs that I found, and I found a picture of me in that brown vest. And I don't know how many years I owned that and wore that, but I was very self-conscious, very embarrassed, and that was definitely a struggle for me as well. However, the real aha moment for me didn't actually happen until I was 40 years old, so long ways down the road. And at that time, I was working out 7 days a week. I was working out more than once a day on most days, but I was 50 pounds overweight. I had high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol, arthritis, diverticulitis, a hiatal hernia, ulcers, chronic back pain. I was drinking too much, and a whole bunch of other issues. I was basically falling apart. And I'd essentially hit rock bottom in my health, and I believe was on a one-way trip to the grave. I had plenty of reasons. I had plenty of reasons to get healthier and choose a career and a lifestyle that was in alignment with that. But I first had to overcome a major mental barrier. How do I transition or give up from a great state retirement, great benefits, steady salary, and doing something I'd done for 22 years and felt very accomplished at? Simply, in a nutshell, it was hard. It was very hard. I'd only worked in government. I'd either worked for the government or some teaching at colleges, and never really had to put a value on my service. You don't ask for raises when you work in the government. You don't put a value on your service like you do in the private industry. So I had to have faith that I was worth the money I was going to charge. And I kept asking myself, am I worth $70 an hour? Can I get that? And can I make a living with that? Have enough of those $70 an hour sessions to be able to pay the bills and support a family. So that was, a big challenge for me. Raf, your hurdles were a little different than mine, and you entered the industry at a different point in your life, quite a bit younger. Would you mind sharing some of that story?
Yeah, definitely. I think coming in at a younger age is different, but really pretty similar in that you have a lot of insecurity and unknowns. I was somewhat insecure about my level of knowledge. I was a bit shy at the time, and I was young, where I was training a lot of people older than myself who happened to be lawyers. I remember training an eye surgeon, a chemical engineer, and there's at a later phase in life, and they just know much more about life and have more wisdom in just about everything except personal training and fitness. So, I'm 21 essentially, living my best college life, balancing that with my personal fitness, doing the best I can there. And, at the same time, I'm telling the surgeon how to sleep better, how to eat more vegetables, and build good life habits. And I'm sure, coming into fitness later in life, you can still relate to those same challenges, Dan.
Uh, Definitely. And in fact, one of my first clients was an orthopedic surgeon. And another of my clients, her husband was an orthopedic surgeon. And I remember, feeling very, very insecure and strange talking about anatomy and physiology and the body with people that were clearly, incredibly intelligent. So definite challenge. Um, and I think regardless of what age we come into this industry, there's going to be some self-doubt. Ralph, how did you finally decide to make the leap and make a commitment and say, I want to make a career in personal training?
Well, I remember walking into the manager's office at the gym and essentially realizing, well, I'm gonna have to sell them on why they should take a chance on me and not somebody else. And I think what was really important for me and anyone wanting to be a trainer is making sure that you're truly passionate about it. Passionate about fitness and wanting to help people because you'll face challenges you don't even know exist. And there's always going to be more to learn. But when you're passionate about fitness and love working out, you can channel that to overcome any hurdle you face. For me, it was realizing that I was really passionate about fitness and I truly loved it.
I love that. And I think for the listeners out there, you're going to hear that word more than once. That means there's, if there was a test at the end of this, that would be something you'd want to memorize for the test. And in this case, it's something you want to file away, and that word is passion. You certainly have to be passionate about what you're doing and what you're working in and in this industry to truly take it to the next level so that it doesn't feel like a job, a job. It feels like a calling, and I love that. For me, one of the biggest challenges I had when I got in was deciding if I wanted to work in a gym, as a trainer amongst other trainers with a gym full of members, or should I start my own business? Maybe, a mobile business or find a place to be able to subcontract or something like that. That was a big one. So I actually sought out some advice from someone with years of experience in the industry, not realizing at the time the cascade effect it would have on me and my career. I was still working full time for the state, but considering changing careers or at least taking on a part-time job because I knew I needed to get into fitness. I wanted to get into fitness. A lot of people told me I should. So I took the NASM CPT course and I got certified. And while I was at one of the workshops, one of the instructors, Scott Mitchell, I'll never forget this, told me that Rodney Korn, a friend of his, lived in the same town I did. And he gave me his phone number. What I didn't realize at the time is Rod only lived about a mile away from me. So I called Rod out of the blue. He doesn't know who I am. And I asked him, after some short, here's who I am and so forth, and here's why I'm calling you. I asked him, should I work in a gym or should I strike out on my own and try to be an independent trainer? And Rod gave me a lot of pros and cons, and we went back and forth. We had a long conversation, and based on my situation, what I concluded was that since I already had a membership at a great gym in town, I knew the fitness director. They were the ones that had encouraged me to become a trainer. I figured that would be the place to start, and so I applied there. What I didn't know that day that I called Rodney is that he was also a member of that gym. He had just co-founded PTAGlobal, and he would end up mentoring me for many years, and eventually hiring me to work for PTAGlobal. So really, profound sequence of events there in my case. And that was what helped me make a decision of which way do I go. Raf, did you find yourself with the same question? Do I go gym or do I go independent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, anybody who's listening or thinking about becoming a personal trainer, that's probably one of the first questions you're going to encounter. And it's something you really need to consider. For myself and for most people starting out, it really makes sense to work for a gym because, to put it simply, you don't know what you don't know. Going back to passion, you do need passion, but passion doesn't necessarily pay the bills. Putting myself through school, I needed more reliability, more stability in my job and pay. And even though I was getting a degree in business, I still had to learn the business of personal training, the operations, logistics, and having dedicated mentors or supervisors that are going to make you a better trainer is a huge advantage to learning all those things. Um, also on that, going through PTAGlobal definitely helped me shorten the learning curve on fitness and training, but working for a gym substantially shortened the learning curve on the business of it and to making the money I wanted to. I think it really allows you to focus more on learning to become a trainer and not being solely reliant on yourself to develop an assessment process, client management system, learning how to get new clients. I think if you are business savvy or once you really learn the business working in a gym, there's definitely benefits to working independently. And I have tons of friends and colleagues who do both of those things. Just know to start out independently, it's going to require a bit more from you.
Great advice, Raf. Great advice. I'd be willing to bet that our listeners out there, if they're considering going into this career, they're going to find themselves relating to one of our stories and asking themselves that same question. Another vivid memory and another benchmark in my personal training career, as I look back on it, was getting my first client. My first client, I already had years of training people in, I trained police officers and fire cadets in physical fitness, self-defense, but in that world, they just do what you tell them to do. They have to. They don't have a choice. They don't pay you, and they don't have to like you. In the private industry, it's exactly the opposite, and it made me very, very nervous. They do need to like you, and they are going to pay you. So my first client, my fitness director, had arranged for me to meet a guy named Tony, who wanted to get back into shape and do a triathlon again. He'd done one when he was younger. And I'll never forget calling Tony. I'll never forget calling and how nervous I was. I was in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven right down the street from the gym, calling him on my cell phone. I was calling to confirm our appointment, butterflies in my gut, so stressed out about meeting him. So I actually asked my wife for advice, and was a pharmaceutical rep and had done a lot of sales and so forth, and met with the people that that were strangers to her and trying to build value and ask for money. I said, what do I do? And her advice to me, she really made it simple. She said, just be confident and be myself. Fortunately, that was enough with Tony, and I did have my first client. I ended up training him for a long time. We're dear friends to this day. But it wasn't until I learned the actual PTAGlobal systems from Rodney where that all of the anxiety lifted when I was trying to build value and ask for a sale. The butterflies went away. It became much more comfortable, and something you'll learn or hear when you hear about PTAGlobal, or you or somebody shares PTAGlobal with you, or somebody shares with you why we were created, is we were created to lower anxiety for the trainer and to lower anxiety for the client. So, Raf, do you remember your first client?
Oh yeah, I think everybody remembers their first. My first client was a guy, John. The first one who actually paid me, I should say. I think probably most people end up training a friend for free before they actually get somebody to pay them. But yeah, I remember John really well. Because I actually found out he had celiac while he was training with me. So at first I was thinking, oh, he's sick all the time. Is he just not trying to answer my phone? Is he making excuses? It turns out he has celiac. So I got exposed to the gluten thing pretty early on, and now we're at the point where people are putting gluten free on chicken in the grocery store. But I remember keeping John actually for a really long time, and I kept him by making sure that he was getting what he needed from me. He saw results with his body fat on the scale, in the mirror, but also really session to session, showing those micro results was a big thing for me and John. And I think with John and with every client, it's really about building a relationship and trust with them, because your clients are going to have to make tough changes. They're going to have ups and downs. Sleeping, eating, and exercise sound simple, but they're not easy. I mean, the things that are easy to do are also really easy not to do. So I learned with him, how important behavior change is, and that got us great results, which in my opinion is the best way to get more clients, because people see working with them on the floor, they see how different they look, how different even their facial expressions are in the gym, their confidence, their happiness. And when you really change someone's life like that, you don't even have to ask them to refer people to you. For me, delivering amazing results and genuinely caring about my client really allowed me to build up my client book. And within 2 to 3 months following that first client, I was, able to get to the point where I was scheduling more sessions than I was hoping or really wanting to train, just knowing that inevitably somebody's going to get sick or go on vacation, or go out of town, which Danielle, I'm sure you know about, having trained tons of people, how life can throw things at you.
Absolutely. And having, more clients or more opportunity than what you can service is a problem I think we all want to have. So very well done. For me, I initially started building a strong base of clients initially because I was attracting people like me, people in their 40s or 50s. They were very direct personalities. They didn't want small talk. I had clients like surgeons and CEOs and military brass. The problem with that was that pool is limited, and I tapped it out pretty quickly. Fortunately, within just a few months of changing careers, Rodney started teaching me the PTAGlobal systems and tools. So within just a few months, I had over 20 clients, and within 4 months, I was at capacity. So 4 months, I couldn't take on any more clients. I also started teaching a weight loss class 1 evening a week, then 2 evenings a week. So within about 6 months, I was actually making the same money I did with the government, which, as I mentioned earlier, was a big, stressor for me. So everything did come together, and with time and application of what I'd learned, I was able to more comfortably make that transition. Now, in looking back, I think the two things that really impacted my quick success, besides some luck, a lot of luck, was what impacted it the most was learning to connect with people that weren't just like me. I attracted people like me. I wanted to hang out with people like me, and I had to learn to connect with people that weren't like me. The other thing was always looking and acting professional and staying busy. I never stood still. If I wasn't training a client or talking to a member, I was putting away equipment. I was wiping down machines. Every single morning, I oiled every single machine in the health club. Every morning at 5 a.m. with a rag and some oil. Now, that didn't last long because my 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. slots were the first to get filled because members saw me out there staying busy and treating the gym like it was my own. The members, they want to hire a busy trainer who takes ownership of their gym. Now, I did that instinctively at that time and through some advice from the fitness director. But we do teach that at PTAGlobal, and it was refreshing to see that because that had a huge impact on my quick success. Raph, do you have any input on what it takes to build a full book of clients, quickly, and maybe how long that can take?
Yep, absolutely. Earlier I said I love fitness because it's so straightforward. You get out what you put in. I think the same thing is absolutely true for building a client book. If you're passive and just hoping people will see you in the gym and want to train with you, or that clients are going to come to you on like Aladdin's magic carpet, it's going to take a really long time to build a full book of clients. However, I do know and think that if you set out with a smart plan and you do the right things, I know many people have gotten there in 2 months. You want to kind of be like the mayor of a small town, but the town is your gym, where you know everyone and everyone knows you. If you spend time saying hello to people, racking weights, or in your case, oiling up the cables, which you might be one of the few trainers in the world to ever do, so that probably set you aside pretty quickly, or just giving people tips or even just a smile and a wave, you'll be on the quicker side of filling up. And going back to that question about working for a gym or independently, another thing to consider is if a gym hires you, it's not because they want to up their payroll. It's because they have clients that need a trainer. So you might get quite a few clients off the bat working for a gym, and the gym is also probably the greatest source of leads for new clients you'll ever find. If somebody's in the gym, they're already a qualified prospect. They want to accomplish something. So, in short, if you put in the work and you follow the right strategies, I think it's absolutely realistic to build up a schedule in 2 to 3 months, sometimes even less.
Perfect, perfect. And one of the things that we offer here at PTA Global is a 90-day plan. I'm just going to throw that one out there real quick to be able to go from brand new to building a full schedule of books. So I love that 2 to 3 month window, and absolutely agree that it can be done in that amount of time. Raph, now that I've been doing this for a while, that's definitely spot on with what I've seen. So I'm going to circle back and talk a little bit more about my story and my journey. Once I started learning from Rod, I took all the PTAGlobal courses, and there were some real key takeaways for me that not only helped me grow my business exponentially, but it did the same things for the trainers I managed, because from when I started, within 11 months, I was the fitness director. So I was able to share that with them. The first takeaway for me, the big one, was that it wasn't about me. I had to shut up. I had to put my ego away. I had to put my experience away, and I genuinely had to listen and care about people. It's not that I couldn't do that. It's just that because of my insecurities, I let my ego and experience be something I wanted to talk about rather than listening. I also needed to follow a system when interviewing, members and possible clients, and use a system to create the programs. Systems are made to be reproducible, so you don't have the anxiety. Remember, I mentioned this. You don't have the anxiety of having to know everything. If you understand the system, and you know the system was built in science and rooted in science and it's solid, use the system. The experts created the system, so I just had to learn how to follow them and follow them, every time. Another huge epiphany for me was the concept of movement styles and how different people like different exercises. When I started training, all my clients did the exercises that I liked. So I was I was a power lifter and a wannabe bodybuilder, so that's the kind of exercises they did. Once I learned the concept of movement styles and more about functional anatomy and three-dimensional movement, I was able to create exercises that my clients liked and get them results faster. Because just because I like it, I cannot assume they're going to like it. And quite often they don't. The bonus, of course, was that my renewal rates were amazing. And we all know that it's much harder to acquire a client or to gain a new client than it is to keep one, to have one continue renewing with you. Now, I kind of want to shore things up here and come back to PTAGlobal specifically before we close out. So I want to let you know a little bit about what to expect from our training, and Raf's a lot more interesting to listen to. So Raf, if you don't mind, can I ask you just some specific questions about the education you went through?
Yeah, sure thing, Dan.
So first question for you, Raf. What did the PTAGlobal certification education give you that you discovered, over the years that others didn't?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, in my role over the last 10 years, I've had the opportunity to go through a lot of different certifications. And, I think they kind of all cover the basic sciences, which for me at the time was important because, I was coming from a magazine and a business degree background. And I think what PTAGlobal taught me really to do was train the human being and not just the human body. Learning that from the start on its own is something I really took for granted, and I had no idea how much of a differentiator that was. I'll give you an example. A lot of people assume that athletes have been told by their doctor they need to make changes now. If you don't change your diet, if you don't change this habit, you're going to have serious consequences. A lot of people think automatically those people are going to follow any advice that you give them, but it's not true at all. It's hard to imagine a stronger motivator than changing this habit will give you more time on this earth. So imagine the majority of your clients who don't have such a time sensitive and pressing motivator. Not so easy to make changes. I think a lot of trainers learn that the hard way, and they get really frustrated saying, people aren't motivated enough. They're not tracking their nutrition. The list of excuses or things to complain about is endless. But through PTAGlobal, I learned how to motivate clients, understand not just what their goal was, that they wanted to lose weight, but why that goal really matters and how to use that to keep them on track and motivated, doing all those little things. It taught me how to individualize for my clients. So like you mentioned earlier, they actually enjoyed the exercise and they looked forward to coming back to the gym, rather than just trying to crush them every workout, which I think everybody's a little guilty with every time. I think everybody's, walked with their chest puffed up, saying that they just made their client throw up. And let me give you a hint to everybody who's listening: don't ever do that. People really don't like throwing up. No. But at the end of the day, Dan, I think just personal training is personal, and PTAGlobal taught me what that personal element was and how to apply it.
Oh, that's perfect. Very well said, Raph. Another common question is, how long was the certification process, and what were maybe the biggest challenges to becoming certified?
Mm-hmm. So for me, the biggest challenge was probably balancing it with school, work, being a freshman in college. So for me, it was about 2 months, which I think most people should aim to do, because you want everything to be fresh in your head. And like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't from a well-to-do family, so I had to come up with some of the money for my cert and ask for the rest to be like my birthday, my Christmas, July 4th, whatever holiday you can think of, to be that present. But looking back, by far the best investment or present that I've ever made.
Great story. That definitely a great investment. Raph, what are some factors that influence the timeline to seeing success as a personal trainer? So again, the folks that are out there listening, I'm anticipating some of the things that they're asking themselves or want to know from us. So, what are those factors that can influence that timeline to becoming successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think timelines always vary, but most of the time it just kind of depends on the person, really how motivated they are. So you think about people wanting to lose weight. If you say, I kind of want to lose some weight, it's going to take you a really long time if you ever get there at all. But if you're all in and you're really committed and you're doing all those little things, you're going to see results pretty quickly. Same thing with personal training. I've seen people turn it full time in a couple of weeks that really put in the effort, built relationships with members. And that's kind of also the beauty of working for a gym, because if they're hiring, they need someone. So oftentimes you're probably going to get some clients right out of the gate when you get hired. And overall, I really think it's a momentum thing. You start training more sessions, so people see you more. You get more confident training people. You get more experience. So the start can be a little tough, but you just have to get the wheels turning. If you hop on a bike, it always takes a little bit to get that bike moving. But once the wheels are going, it's not that hard to keep it moving. So, at the end of the day, I really think the biggest factor is just how passionate and invested are you. Chances are, for those taking time out of their day to listen right now, you at least have the passion. So now it's just a matter of figuring out how are you going to apply that passion and applying it in the right ways.
Excellent. There's that passion word. I told you all out there, listeners, that you're going to hear it, many times. So that's going to be the answer if you have a quiz or an exam here. Raph, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I always love hearing you share your experience. Love seeing what you're doing in the industry. It's been great to be a part of the PTAGlobal community with you and to be your friend. Now, listeners, before I tell you how to get your free ebook on the 5 things you need to consider about becoming a personal trainer, I want to answer any questions that have come along. Our moderator's done a really good job of putting some questions together. So if they were very similar, basically using them by topic. So the first one I see here is, how long did it take you to get your first consistent client? So we talked a little bit about that, but first consistent client. Raph, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. Well, I was really lucky and fortunate. I was working for a gym, so I want to say it was like a week. So pretty much right away. And fortunately, that client, John, I had great mentors and I learned, how to keep him motivated, how to really understand him, individualize his exercise. So it ended up being, my first client was a really long-term client. We trained for months and months and got some great results. And I think for most people working in the gym, that's probably going to be pretty consistent, as long as you really are dedicated to helping them.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you for answering that. And in the interest of time for all of the folks that are out there, it'll probably just be one of us answering each question. So the next one here is how long did it take for you to start making enough money to where you could leave your day job? Very good question. And I think that's probably for anybody wanting to make a career change, the number one thing on their mind. So I did mention that. I'll answer that question. I mentioned it earlier. For me, now I was very well established in a career, so it took me 6 months, and it was 6 months of hard work, and it always is. But like Raph said, how bad do you want it? And with consistent application and doing the things you need to do, to build relationships and acquire new clients and use systems to continue to evolve. I think a person could easily find themselves in that position in 3 months. However, everybody is different, and 6 months is definitely doable. So to answer the question, it depends probably on how much your day job is paying and what you're trying to match, but 3 to 6 months of dedication and focus and using the system sciences and tools that are going to build you success, it could happen for you. Let's see here. Another question: what should I look for in a gym that I want to work for? That's a really good question. RAF works with a lot of clubs, has worked with a lot of clubs, and manages, like I mentioned earlier, over 1,000 trainers. So I'm going to throw that one at RAF. RAF, what do you think they should look for in a gym?
Hmm. So I think, whenever you're going into any sort of interview for a job, you should always think about having it two ways. So think about, what sort of questions they're asking you when you're going through an interview. How much are they asking about your experience? How much are they talking about, the passion and the work, the results of your clients versus really just focusing on, how are they cut and dry about sales? I think, also when you're looking at the gym, you should really ask a lot of questions about, what am I kind of going to get out of this? So if you're new coming into the industry, money is obviously important, but if you want success for the long time, you need to be developed. So what are they going to do to make sure that you succeed within the gym? How are they going to teach you, how to prospect for new clients? How are they going to teach you about managing clients, doing time management? What emphasis do they have on continuing education, and what's that going to look like on a day-to-day basis? I think that's one of the most important things is just understanding, how much better are you going to become at being a trainer? And, if you do ultimately want to go independent, how much are you going to learn about the business? So I think you should really look at that and then go for a workout there and just see, how do you like it? How do you fit in? Looking around the gym, are these people that you see yourself training? If you're going into a really niche market and you see only athletes in there, is that who you want to train? Are you confident, or do you feel more confident training, the everyday person who just wants to lose weight, feel better? So, a lot of different factors, but ask some strong questions about what you're going to get out of it, and go for a workout and see, do you see yourself working there and spending a lot of time in that gym?
Mic drop. Nothing I can add to that. That was brilliant. Excellent answer, Raf. Thank you for answering it. Last one that we're going to have time to answer here is how many clients do I need to be stable? And that's a depends kind of an answer, because are you training groups? Are you training one-on-one? Are you training, couples, et cetera? That can kind of skew the numbers and so forth. So I'm going to keep it really simple and just say, for that person that's training one-on-one, again, depends on the business model of the health club or your business. But I would say that to be stable, I would shoot for 20 clients. Now, remember, it's not just about how many clients you have, but how often they're training. Are they coming once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, and so forth? And that's some of the analytics you want to run to figure out, how many sessions, what the average is for each one of your clients, so that you can predict your revenue and be able to set goals. So 20 clients training, say, twice a week, would be a really good target. Now, if you really want to set the bar high and then beyond that 20, once you've hit that and be able to say, okay, I really feel like I'm at a place where this has taken up most of my time, in other words, a full-time job, 30 clients is probably going to be a closer number to putting you there. Raph, do you have any input on that question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think don't necessarily focus on how many people you have. I think the really simple math is okay, how much money do you need to make? Then divide that. How many sessions is it going to take me to train that? And then that kind of gives you an idea of okay, I need maybe 20 clients who are training twice a week, 10 who are training once a week, and just work the math out that way.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, thank you. What about the ending to my crappy health story? So I kind of threw out there earlier where I was at the age of 40. So where did that end, and what motivates me to share the importance of a healthy lifestyle and the PTA Global education? What is it that motivates me to share that every single day? Um, all those health issues I mentioned, they peaked in about 2009, which happens to be about the same year Raph entered personal training. And when I entered, back in 2009, I could barely run a mile. I had a lot of pain if I did. I had a lot of pain in my low back, a lot of pain in my left knee. And I'd become used to fighting through the pain. It's just was lifestyle, it's just what you do and how you feel to get the job done. And I figured that's how my next 40 years were going to be. Started to try to accept that, I guess you could say. In late 2010, Rod began training me once a week as a client and showing me these tools that I'm so passionate about here at PTA Global and showing them to me real time as I learned them online. And after learning the methodology behind things like three-dimensional movement, myofascial lines, stress, and its impact on overall health and recovery, and a lot of other stuff, I really quickly began to morph into a completely different person. Even my wife tells me and was telling me a lot back then that I looked and acted like a completely different person than the one she met. Hopefully that's hopefully that's good. So I'm falling apart in 2009. And by 2011, I did my first triathlon. 2012, I did a half Ironman triathlon. In 2013, I did a full Ironman triathlon. So I'm clearly, things have changed. In 2015, I did a double Ironman. The following year, I did a triple Ironman. And just over a year ago, I did what's called a quintuple Ironman. So what is that? It's a 12-mile swim, a 560-mile bike ride, and a 131-mile run back to back, day and night. Anybody can do that with training. So it's not about the event. It's really about what I'm going to say next. I don't share this story to impress you because anybody can do it. It's to impress upon you that with the right system, science, tools, and passion, you have more than the ability to help change lives. You actually have the ability to save lives. And in all honesty, there is no question that Rodney and PTA Global saved mine. Might sound a little cheesy, but it's true. If you can relate to my story or to Raphael's, or maybe you know someone who'd like to create a career in fitness or improve their health in a huge way, a really good next step would be to download our complimentary ebook, again, on the 5 things to consider about being a personal trainer. Jumping into the career of fitness is extremely rewarding, beyond measure, but it's still the C word, change. And we want to help you be more prepared for that change if you decide it's the right choice for you. So you're all going to get an email on how to download the ebook that I described earlier. Make sure you check your spam and your junk folders. You never know where emails go. So if you don't see that come in, make sure you check those folders. Last, I just want to thank you all very much for your valuable time today. Thank you, Raphael, for sharing your experience and your passion with all of us. Remember, we are better together, and we can save the world through fitness, one client at a time. I know this as a client and a trainer. Be well.